everyone. Welcome to the Los Angeles chapter's three-part series, Conversations, GRAMMYs Bridges the Gaps. I am Kiana Conley. I am your executive director of the Los Angeles chapter, and I want to welcome everyone in joining us today. Thank you for being here. Love it, right on cue. We love that. So now we'll kick off today's discussion, brought to you again by the Professional Development Committee of the Los Angeles chapter. It's called A Music Creator's Guide to Sustain and Maintain.
Thank you, Kiana. Thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys about all of your experience and past, understanding of what's going on in the music industry. So first things first, share with the room your professional journeys and how you initially envisioned them and where they are today.
Just jumping in.
Yeah, I don't know. What's up, everybody? How's everybody feeling today? Everybody's awesome? Nice. I don't know how we're supposed to do this.
Just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with your passion and your love, what you do for free anyway, which is making some music, playing an instrument, ignoring, your climate. And kind of that's how it was therapy for me. It's still therapy for me. It's still very much therapeutic. And, that's how it kind of starts. It doesn't, the journey doesn't kind of go all the way like that, but you take the journey as it comes. You tolerate anything you love, so everything that comes with it, you don't expect it. So it's pure intention. You expect nothing, but you may reap a little more. So that's how I, kind of got into this.
Okay. Hello. Is this thing going? All right. Man, my journey was a little interesting. I always had a passion for music. Family would tour doing choirs and around the U.S. But I also had a passion for sports. So I played football, but I was the guy every Friday that had a mixtape ready for the team to pump it. So that I transitioned to DJing, did a lot of events in college. But one thing, even when I jumped into sports marketing, I still had that in the back of my head of, look, music is my passion. I've always been around. I played instruments growing up. And how can I kind of bridge the marketing and live events and music all together? So I started interning a bit with some sports marketing companies, but then got into nonprofit events and things of that nature, graduated college, and I was in Miami, but at that time I thought LA would be the place to come to really expand the music industry, and I'm not bilingual. So Miami is very, very big on, I guess, the Hispanic culture. So I came out here, literally got my feet wet. I got some books from music business. Had a few friends. I took classes at UCLA, but I know you were. But the books really kind of taught me the ropes of smaller things from the PRO segments and royalties and not signing horrible deals and that type of repetition. From there, I just kind of built out and I learned to really, like you said, follow your passion, take a risk, don't wait for anybody. A lot of the most things that we've accomplished from the music side to even the event side was doing it yourself. A lot of the partnerships I had came from investing in myself and putting things out there, and then that transitioned into actually being able to partner with the Grammys and then other different companies that we worked with in the past. But I would say definitely it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. You will get a lot of no's, but also find your tribe and community that can help you grow within the process.
Yeah. I'll just add, I think we all are on the same page and would agree that, there are a lot of parallels between life and a career in music, right? So for me, when I first got going in music, it was a bit paralyzing that it felt like there was so much that I didn't know and so much more to come, and when am I going to get there and how am I going to get there? And when you look back on it, it's just an amalgamation of days, right? Every single day leads to today in my life, but also in my music career. And it makes sense, sort of like Craig was saying, that the person that I fed into is the person who chose to wear the jumpsuit today, right? But the musician that I am, it has all of the little days that have led up to the person that I am today. Makes a lot of sense looking back, that if you're a person who is really interested in sports and also the music industry and also music, that you're going to lead yourself down a path that's really different from somebody who loves music and sports, but not music industry, right? That person is on a totally different path. And so to just trust and follow the path that you're on, because it's really different from other people. And like, so for me, I, went to a high school that had, like, really went there because it was the closest one to my house, but they had an incredible jazz program, and I fell in love with it, and then decided to go to USC because it was cheaper to go there than like the state school in Washington, because I got more financial aid from USC, and graduated with a degree in a Bachelor of Science in Jazz Studies, which was more rooted in music industry than music history, because that was more interesting to me. And it made sense that because I had won an award, like a Downbeat Student Music Award for Best Collegiate Vocalist, and a management company was like, we want a young singer. I couldn't have foreseen that that would have happened, but that opened a door for me to be signed to my first management company at 19. And so therefore, of course, I'm so much more interested and driven by awareness of record labels and booking agents and sync licensors, because those are people that I've been interfacing with since I have been 19, now at 40 years old. So I would say that my journey is different than the 3 other women who I work in a vocal collective with, because everybody's journey is different. I can't do the things that they can do, but I do some really specific, really cool things. So I would say just like step into the superpower that is your daily life that adds up to exactly who you're going to be.
I'll go last. I'll piggyback on that and say, I grew up in Tennessee. I'm from Nashville. And like most gays, I fled to the coast like a life buoy when I came out. I always knew I wanted to do country music. I grew up singing it my whole life, but I never saw myself in it, and that was always really hard for me. I went to school at Belmont in Nashville, and I was in the company of just incredibly talented country artists, and I found myself trying to write and be like them, and I couldn't have been more different. So when I moved to Los Angeles, was the first time I ever felt like I could write for me and not feel constrained by what I was supposed to do, and that was really freeing to me. A lot of people have tried to get me to move back to Nashville over the years, but I tell them, you're going to have to drag me there kicking and screaming, because I ain't going. Because this is where I feel at home. This is where I feel inspired. This is where I am encouraged to create. And it took a long time for me as an artist to figure that out. And I always thought that I wanted to be in Nashville, signed to a major country label, and live my life there. And it just wasn't right for me. And it took some time to actually figure that out and realize that. And I never thought Los Angeles would be my home, but I couldn't be happier here. And I am the only non-drag artist signed to a roster of drag queens who do music. I would never have picked that out for myself. Or never envisioned that. But that's my home. That is my label family. And man, it's just a path that I could never have drawn for myself. But the one thing that led me here was that just always listening to what felt right and what produced the most like authentic music in me, and it was being this Southerner in Los Angeles, which absolutely makes no sense writing country music. But I think that I just learned that you have to actually listen to yourself and believe that's that you're believe your gut. So happy to be here.
I mean, to piggyback off of that, I mean, I think all of you have shown, right, that everybody's journeys are so incredibly different, and it's not a very linear way to experience the music industry or just being an artist in general. And also, like, even the stories about how music has shaped each other's lives is, like, a completely different story from one to another. So it's always really interesting to hear everybody's, like, perspective and understanding of how they got there. But also, like, as a music creator, crafting your own path, sound, and vision, what are some key lessons you've learned on the way to shape yourself as an artist and as a professional you want to be?
Just coming in hot with those questions,
Look,
baby.
I'm not here to play.
Yes, yes. Woo. Well, I guess 2 things. Number 1, I would say that nobody understands what it is that you want to do more than you, and nobody will fight harder for what it is that you want to do than you. And so as the CEO of your own whatever it is that you want to do. If you're an artist, or if you're a mix engineer, if you are an artist manager, if you are the director of the Recording Academy, right? Like, you are the person who is the boss of that one thing that you inhabit. And that no matter what space you're in, understanding what it is that like your journey is and what needs to happen for that journey to kind of like reach peak, whatever it is that you want it to be, I think is really important for you to take on yourself. So a lot of things that I get asked by young people is like, when do I find a booking agent? When do I get a manager? When do I, whatever? And for me, the answer is like, when you can't not, because I've never had a booking agent who like fought tooth and nail for me, unless I was not begging, but like pushing them to, right? Being kind of like the squeaky wheel. Or like, I've never had somebody who, like a manager who was like, you're so incredible and I want to lose money working for you, right? Like, that just doesn't work like that. So it's kind of like, if you aren't if there's not a lot of buzz or a lot of like movement in what it is that you're doing, it would be tough for a manager to be able to do much for you, right? So if somebody has a strong vision, if you have a strong vision and sort of like have worked on developing whatever it is that you think you're doing, it would be very easy for someone to kind of jump in and figure out what it is that they can do to help you. But the other thing that I would say is that these days, artists and anybody can do so much more by themselves than they used to be able to do. Like, even when I was in college, the idea of recording my own vocals at home for my EP was like not even ever an option, let alone like potentially self-releasing my music, or even just like building a website to self-fund my project, right? Like, all of those things were like not possible, and now they are. And so you are in a position where you can, or anyone is in a position where they can either look at someone else's path and go, well, this has happened, so I guess let's get in line and work it out and do it. Or you can say like, I actually really don't want to tour, so I guess I don't really need a booking agent, but I really want to make money off of my craft, so how do I do that, right? And you can formulate the way to solve whatever it is that you think you want based on your own team, instead of falling in line with whatever team worked for other people, right? I think that permission was probably one of the best bits of advice that I had ever been given, that like, if I don't really want to record, I just want to perform live, why would I put money into making a record, right? If I don't really want to perform live, but I really love making live videos, how do I make that into something to build my social media following and get my numbers up to the point where I'm actually making money off of that, right? Like, there's a lot of ad revenue that can be made off of different things that maybe aren't in your line of sight if you're just focusing on joining the path that someone else has carved, right? So that would be the biggest lesson, 2 lessons that I learned. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
I'd piggyback off that and say the same thing. Your own momentum is yours to keep forever, right? Before you can get a team. I'm from the church house, right? I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Maryland. Shout out to the DMV. By way of Philadelphia. So, my entry into it is a total different way. There are no teams. There's no managers. There's no nothing. There's your talent, your skill set, your ability. So you build your own momentum. And I've always been of the mind, I've been writing since I was 13, with my own groups and, starting and playing the drums, and you get kicked off when you're young because you can't play yet. We get this education through like rejection, like hard rejection in church, where it's like, if you can't sing, you're not allowed to sing. So those simple facts is easy evidence, A, whether you should be doing this or not, and B, whether you think it's something to build on. And you go through that kind of way, and I've always been of the mind, I like my own songs, I'm gonna try them outside. I didn't have social media at 16, 17 yet. YouTube was a baby. I'm aging myself a little bit.
I'm with you.
Stay with me, girl. So, the only evidence was to go outside and get booed. Like, are you good or are you not, right? That was an easy way to find out without having a team, manage your own momentum, your own effort. And once I saw that pay off, you could see the evidence of, those 5 people said they liked it. All right, let's go do this again. Let's get 10 more people to do it. It's increments, right? And like you said, it's every day. It's every day since 14. It's every day. There's equipment in that nobody paid for. There's headphones, interfaces, plugins, all the stuff that no one helps you with. your own momentum. My own momentum got me a free mixer from an older homie who had Cubase, right? That's how I got equipment. Like, because who helps you with these kind of things? That momentum kind of set me in motion of seeing my own results. It's like making your own food, right? And you see it and you multiply attempts. Just keep multiplying attempts. So that's key for me as well.
Ask that question again.
Right? I was thinking like,
I want to make sure I'm giving you a good answer here.
So a condensed summary is, as a music creator, crafting your own path, sound, and vision, what are some key lessons you've learned on how to shape yourself into an artist or a professional you want to be?
You know, this is so interesting because I spent the entire month of November in Nashville. I went back as kind of a trial balloon to see if I could live there again. I can't. But I spent the month there, and it was like the trip I didn't think I needed, but like I learned everything that I didn't know I was looking for. Because I would have these meetings with people. The couple of the ones that I remember is like this artist friend of mine. She's in a country trio, and she was like, "Yeah, we've known each other since we were kids. I took her on a date to see Vince Gill and Amy Grant at the Opry House when I was 6. My first date to a woman." Anyway, she was like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna be gone like 320 some. We have like 320 dates this year." And I was like, oh, God, I don't want to do that. Like that, I'm a homebody, and I love being at home. And so the idea of touring for 300 plus days out of the year was just like not appealing to me. And then I was in a session with this writer, Chris Sly, who wrote Here Comes Goodbye for Rascal Flatts, and we wrote this amazing song for said trio, and like we're having this great session, and he was like, yeah, man, I was like, I've been writing, like doing double sessions every day for like 2 years, and like I still can't get a publishing deal in this town. And I like to write, but I don't like to write that much. Like I don't want to do double sessions every day. Like I want to write when I feel inspired to. And like I started to realize I have very specific things that I like to do as a person and an artist. And they weren't matching up to this like dream I had as a child, where everyone's like, oh, you are the most talented thing I've ever seen. You're going to be famous. You're going to be huge. You're going to like sell out stadiums. And like I just had gone through this like years and years and into my adult life just like believing that this is what I wanted, while in tandem like realizing that a lot of that, what the reality of this is actually not a lot of what I actually want. And so I came back to LA, and I told my manager, I was like, hey, look, here are some definite things that I want and I don't want, and I want to figure out what my career actually looks like, that's going to make me happy, not necessarily something that I had like was predetermined for me as a child, or something that I thought I wanted and just never really actually examined. I don't know. It was just a really clarifying trip, and I think that it's very easy for us as artists to kind of like fall into, if you're not the biggest thing or you don't have these 5 things and selling out stadiums, then you're not a success. I think that that's not true. I think that whatever makes you happy is your greatest success, and I'm still searching for mine. So.
Well, I guess that leaves me. So I can speak to that on a few different facets. One, from the artist management perspective, and from the event production perspective. The first thing that you mentioned earlier was vision, and knowing like your goals and like what you want to do. I always had a passion for helping individuals, people, and that kind of translates to everything I do. On the artist side, that's what I do day to day. Like, how can I bring your vision to life? So with my artist Kenyon, fully independent forever. His biggest thing is like, put the music out. Like, I'm not gonna wait. If I have to drop every 6 months, but at the end of the day, no one's gonna know you need help. No one's gonna know what you need, or you won't be able to understand what you may want to change or alter, what your fan base is, or any of that stuff if you just sit on music. So like, just knowing that you have what it takes and believing in yourself, that's the number one thing, because like you said, no one's gonna go harder for you than yourself. Building a team. And then also on the event side, man, I've had events where it was 3 or 4 people. Like, But those 3 or 4 people was like, hey, this is the best experience I've had. So you go back to the drawing board like, hey, I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. How can I structure that to, exceed the masses? And then I had a few events where I had 1,000 people, where it's like, okay, I kind of get it. But my biggest thing on that aspect was when guests leave, I want them to take away something. I want them to also not be like, this was a fun party, but I met 5 people that can change my life, or I connected with a brand that I always wanted to. So I'm always big on putting people into position to win, which led me into my current role at Vidya as a community manager, where I do all the brand partnerships, but we mainly focus on independent labels and managers and giving them the tools and resources and financial backing for them to compete with, say, majors or things like that. So that was always like my end goal, was like helping. And then it just kind of transitioned into the artist management, the events, and so happened to be now doing corporate marketing and branding. But the number one goal was vision and knowing that I wanted to help people, and that just translated into everything that I was doing.
As an indie artist, or as someone who represents an indie artist, are there better partnerships that serve you over others? When choosing these partnerships, how do you make sure you're staying true to your authentic self, voice, and art? Am I stumping you guys?
Do you want me to stab at it? Okay, partnerships. Every partnership isn't a good partnership. We can start there.
Thank you, Craig.
Because I think the biggest thing, if they don't align with your end goal, it doesn't fit. Because we get reached out even on the artist management side for him to work with cannabis companies, all these different things, but that's not, what he stands for. He's not gonna just jump into a situation because it throws you a few dollars. We get it as creative, independent creators. LA is expensive. We get it. But at the end of the day, it's like, where do you see yourself, in 10, 15, 20 years? Like, who can you align with that actually sees the vision that you're trying to do? Like, for instance, if you wanted to be a recording artist, but like touring, like, okay, first off, let me kind of dive into maybe partnering with, let's say, like So Far Sounds, or like really like digging into different companies that align with that part of it. If you want, to be more on the social media influencer side, okay, then there's a bunch of agencies that will allow you to do that. So when you're looking for partners, be very strategic that they can, get you to where you want to go. And at certain parts of your career, also making sure that you're a priority wherever you go to. Because at the end of the day, if they have a big roster, we know how that gets. Like, you may or may not get a response, or you may not get the same accessibility to certain things. So just making sure that you're aligned properly with those different brands and partners, and you're doing it for your end goal and not for a quick play at the moment.
Unfortunately, I think we're only time limited to one more person to answer this question, and then we'll open it up to the floor for you guys. So if anybody wants to take a crack at this, it's up to you guys. 3 of you.
I can do it.
Battle it out.
I can go. Let's go. I guess the thing that pops out about that question is that word partnership, right? Which is like, if you think about partnership, it's about equality. It should be about equality and kind of like a joint feeling like both people are on an even playing field and can benefit from whatever it is that you guys are entering into. And I think that you can think about that moving forward in any partnership, in a collaborative writing experience. The first thing that pops to my mind that I feel like I could maybe offer is record labels. Do I release with a record label or without one? My first recording contract was with an independent label that was well-funded, and they put a lot of money into the record, which meant that I still owe them a lot of money. Like, I'm not making any money off of that record, even though it still is the highest grossing record of mine, even though all of the Spotify streams would equal about $80,000 cumulatively. I will never see any of that money because all of the money that we spent on that record is recoupable by me, right? But that record did well and continues to do well, and I didn't have a record contract. I didn't have a name for myself at the time, and so I gained a lot from that. It was a really good partnership for me at that time. At this point, does it make sense for me to go into debt making a record when I have a fan base and the means to make my own album and the connections to release an album independently? Absolutely not. So that would be the question that you want to ask yourself is like, how does this benefit me in this scenario? Yes, if a massive label was like, we want to release an album for you, I would probably say yes because the visibility of that recording company is going to open doors for me. If an independent label wants to take a lot of money from my independently funded album, that doesn't benefit me as much. So you really want to think about sort of like the balance and the partnership of what it is that you're entering into.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for all of this insight. We are going to open it up to Grammy U.
Hi, everyone. I'm back for just a little bit. Then we'll give it to Grammy U. But first of all, I just want to say thank you. This is not the closing speech. That is coming. But right now, I want to say thank you to this wonderful panel. Again, to Lorraine Patel, to Brandon Stanzel, to Camp, to Sarah Gazarek, and to Craig Posey. Thank you so much for your insight. We're going to have questions from our audience. But first, on behalf of Grammy U, we have an amazing campus ambassador. Her name is Esther Galvez, and she's from the California State University of Long Beach. And she's going to jump us off and ask the first question. Thanks, Esther.
Here we go.
Hi, thank you so much for all your answers that you did. My question is that because I'm about to graduate, so despite like rejections on like jobs, how do you gain like inspiration to like keep on being like, I guess, more hopeful?
Well, I have a saying that I like to keep in my back pocket, and I always tell people that if I had waited for someone to open a door for me, I'd still be sitting behind a closed door. I heard a lot of no's when I was about ready to make my first record, and it is really disheartening, and it sucks. And I mean, but it's universal. Like, you're gonna hear that. And one thing I say to this day, when I get the response that I don't want, or that I wasn't hoping for, is I always tell myself to sidestep. I don't know. It's just a weird thing I've always told myself, because there is always another way around. It's kind of like back to that, this idea of like, what you thought you wanted as a child. There's not only one way to get from point A to point B. And as an independent artist, there's usually multiple paths. So I just always kind of told myself, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. Sidestep, find another way.
Thank you.
I would say kind of the same thing. Use your artist superpower. Feel yourself. Find the inspiration. Find the love. As many days you're not gonna have the money for some food or for some gas to get to the session, and you gotta find that song from 10 years ago. And I was like, man, that made me feel right. I'm listening to a book now called Atomic Habits from James.
My husband is what? Yes.
James Clear. That's your husband?
No.
I was like, all right, girl.
I wouldn't be here if that was my husband.
No.
No, he's reading that book.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes from the book it says, she think my husband. But one of the quotes was, environment is just as important as motivation. They tell artists these blanket statements all the time. It's on you, put bootstraps and all that, grind culture and hustle it out. Yeah, if you're a hustler, you can do that, but you're your own motor still. So you have to fill yourself with those things that's going to make you do it again. Or else tomorrow's going to come and you're going to be depressed. And we know how that feels. That lingers. So find the love, you know what I'm saying? Whatever makes you feel at least 10% better, run with that.
The only thing that I'll add is that I feel grateful early on that I had a mentor say that ultimately you're the only one who can determine your value. And the sooner that you can tap into that, the more successful you will be. And it was really helpful for me to hear that early on. And he sort of reiterated that specifically surrounding rejection, but also with like reviews and kind of opinions of people listening to the music, that like if I got that review that Kiana quoted, she may well turn out to be the next important jazz singer. Like in that moment, like, oh my God, the New York Times or the LA Times think I'm like, it's one guy. Who knows why he said that? Maybe I look like his daughter. Maybe truly, who knows? And fortunately, by sort of taking that pill, I was able to process that like this is a good currency to put in a bio, because that's something that people read and say, okay, that gives context. We trust the LA Times. That means something to the general public. Does it mean I am the next important jazz singer? According to that guy that day, sure. But by the same token, when I got a review in the New York Times that said the problem with the performance was the voice itself, I was able to scan the review and find a quote that said, Sarah Gazarek is an accomplished scat improviser who exudes excellence and cheer. It was like, Thank you so much. Put it in there, move on with my day. Because again, I have no idea if he got in a fight with his partner that night. I don't know if I look like the person who fired him earlier in the day. Like, you really can't control why people say no. What you can control is your understanding of the value that you bring in the lane that you are the only person who can inhabit, and to keep moving forward whether or not people say it's good or bad, because it has no bearing on your value. Yeah.
Should I give a little
Go
quick?
for it.
I'll just keep it real quick from the job perspective of it. Before I started getting the new job at Vidya, I was looking to get back into corporate. I applied for, countless number of jobs. Oh, rejection, rejection, rejection. So I started producing my own events and just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. But I put out a mission to partner with companies that I would want to potentially work with. So happened to do a music industry mixer and partner with Vidya. And they were our partners for that. And then a few months down the line, I actually reached out to partner again. And they're like, we had a good time working with you at the event. We actually have a marketing position open on our team. Are you interested? So like really putting yourself in those positions, in those rooms to connect with those people, that's another form of networking without having to go to events. But that's just how I kind of was able to transition into getting that role after being turned down thousands of times.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Esther.
do we have anybody in the audience who have questions? I think I have to go there.
Hi, my name is Rivita. Okay. Hi, my name is Rivita. I'm a singer-songwriter producer myself, and I'm a voting member since 2021, and one of the Grammy Next. So my question for you is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What's next for you? Like, you've reached these amazing goals, and where are you going? That's what I want to know.
I mean, she said something key earlier. Your process is always going to be a process. Everybody's journey is different. Know that. What 5 years looks like now, in 5 years, is not going to look the same. You won't be the same person. So know that. You'll be, essentially, you want to still be the same. So in 5 years, essentially, my core values and my principles and my moral, of course, is still going to be intact, but elevate it with my skill set, elevate it with what I know my product delivers to my audience and audiences that haven't discovered me. Things like that is kind of what I'm looking forward to myself, along with the chips and the dip that comes with it. I want my Grammy as well. I want my hardware as well, because that's why we compete. But yeah, so you want to still be essentially the same, so that once you get there with a little more resources, access, that you can do it again and do it again. I want to be here 10 years past that, 15 and 20. So I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. So that's a goal point for me. So I do things that's going to kind of keep me here in 5, in 10, and 15, and 20 years.
Yeah, I think the idea of sustain and maintain is sort of like the concept that we're talking about today. And I think that the sustain is really important. So investing in my instrument and my health and my mental health and sustainability, and thinking like, okay, I'm 40 years old. I want to do this at 50. Do I want to do it at 50 with the same way that I'm engaging it right now? I would love for it to be easier, and I would love for it to be funded by someone else. Truly. And so that's a big part of what my goal is right now. And the way that I'm spending my time is researching like grants and projects that are funded by other people and opportunities for women creators in music and independent business owners in Los Angeles, and just kind of finding ways to research while also studying and learning about vocal anatomy and working with a private instructor myself, and looking for better paying opportunities as an educator, and also looking for collaborators that will elevate the thing that I'm doing, to continue, like Camp was saying, to do it in the way that I do it, on the path that I'm on, but continuing to look forward and saying, how do I do this differently and better and easier than what I'm doing right now, to continue to oil the machine.
So we are going to close. We're just at time. Do I have time for maybe one more quick question with one answer? Let's do it. why not? If you could stand up and then tell us your name.
Great. Yes, hi, I'm Jane Trimble. I am a folk electronic artist called Oxlip, and I also have my own company called World Peach Records, which is a label, studio, and management company for women. Since we're here today to talk about sustainability as artists, and we're a room full of artists, can you each, or no, we're only allowed one, but describe what was the most financially sustainable or sustaining thing that happened in your career, the choice that you made that actually helped you sustain your life and living?
Who wants to take this question?
I mean, I have an answer, but I've been talking a lot, so.
Whoever. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just say that the thing that I have found that was the most financially intelligent decision that I ever made was to self-fund and self-release my own project. I like to equate it to renting a house versus buying a house. That when someone else puts out your music, essentially you're creating something and then they are making a profit off of this thing, and it exists in the world and it's great, but you're essentially renting your own art, right? I have to pay a recording company when I want to buy CDs from them to then sell when I go on the road. The record that I put out isn't my best-selling album, but I've already paid it off, and all of the money that continues to come in from that record is now paying for the next one. And so it's like I've paid off the house and can now make money and potentially pay off the next one. So I would say don't, if you are ever in a position where that seems like a viable option, to continue to own your art and to continue to release your own art, because it only will make money for you instead of make money for somebody else.
Wonderful.